Translator, editor, Fish Creek. So Yunxiang steadied her mind, then lifted her gaze toward Qinmu, who had already walked far ahead. I will not be inferior to that so-called overlord body. The women of our Sai family are born natural cult master killers. If the saintless of the previous generation could slay the previous cult master, then I can do it as well. They reached Flood County the next day, and Flood County had already been seized for 2 days. The moment a soldier saw Imperial Preceptor, he immediately came to report, "Imperial Preceptor, many people bearing flags have arrived within the city." People bearing flags? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor lowered his voice and pondered for a moment while looking at Qinmu. He then said, "Ignore them. How many are there exactly?" "About a dozen. They all wear bamboo hats to cover their faces, and they carry different weapons wrapped tightly in cloth. They don't look like good guys." "You may withdraw." On the third day, they arrived at Clear River County, and there were likewise many people bearing flags who had come to Clear River County. There were about 50 to 60 of them, far more than yesterday. On the fourth day in Hidden Fog City, several hundred people bearing flags appeared in the city. Qinmu did not explain where these people came from and why they had come here. And Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor did not ask about it. On the fifth day, they walked out of the official's manor and prepared to head to Daxiang. Just as they stepped out of the yamen and onto the street, they saw a strange person wearing a bamboo hat, carrying weapons wrapped in cloth, rise from beside the yamen gate and trail behind them. They took 2 more steps forward, and another person emerged from the alley at their side. This person also wore a bamboo hat pressed low. In his hand was a weapon wrapped in cloth. Another burly man in a bamboo hat by the roadside also stood up and shouldered a cloth sack as he followed. Before they had even left Hidden Fog City, several hundred strange people dressed in the same manner were already following behind them. There were men and women, the young and the old. Chen Wanyun, Yue Qinghong, and the others turned back to look and felt uneasy. All these people had their bamboo hats pushed down and followed at a fitting distance behind. They refused to show their faces, and no one knew what they planned to do. Could they be those people bearing flags? Where are their flags? Yun Kuei muttered. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor still remained cold and unmoved, paying no heed at all to the few hundred people behind him. When they reached Hidden Fog City, there was an arbor not far from the city gate. Beneath the arbor sat 2 elders selling tea, 1 man and 1 woman. As they approached, the 2 elders raised their heads and greeted them. "Dear guests, how about a cup of tea?" Monk Yun Kuei muttered, "Why drink tea when we've only just taken to the road?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, "I'm thirsty." As soon as he spoke, he sat down within the arbor and asked for a cup of tea. Qinmu also sat down. Those 2 elders sat down as well, each taking a place of their own. 4 people sat at the 4 sides of the table, each with a cup of tea set before him. Chen Wanyun, Yue Qinghong, and the rest also wanted to go forward, yet they discovered that no matter how they advanced, they remained in the same spot. The arbor was clearly close at hand, but after dozens of steps, they were still where they had started. Everyone was shocked and hurriedly dashed toward the arbor. Their speed was extremely fast, yet they were always several yards away from it. This arbor that looked close seemed to be 1,000 miles away. After a moment, Qinmu and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor finished their tea. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor stood and clasped his hands in a bow. The old man and old woman also stood and returned the bow. The 2 of them walked out of the arbor, and Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, "Let us go to Daxiang." Everyone wore bewildered expressions, yet they still followed behind. Yue Qinghong turned back to look and saw that the few hundred strange people in bamboo hats did not follow them. Instead, they had sat down outside the arbor, each holding a cup of tea and drinking in silence. It was a bizarre sight. "What a bunch of weird people," Hulinger said. Si Yunxiang moved to Qinmu's side and asked in a low voice, "Is it done?" Qinmu nodded. "You will know then." When they arrived at the outskirts of Daxiang City, barracks filled the open ground. Military camps were set up everywhere, and Duke Wei, Grand General who crowns the army, and Grand General of Cherishing Transformation were all here. They did not immediately invade Daxiang. Daxiang was a strategic town along the southern borders where rebel armies from every quarter would gather, amassing thousands of soldiers and cavalry. Disciples of all manner of sects also streamed toward this place without end, waiting for their moment to strike. If war erupted, it would surely be recorded as an epic and grand battle in the annals of history. Along the way, Qin saw golden-armored strongmen pushing huge cloud carts and drilling in city assaults. These golden-armored strongmen were experts who cultivated battle techniques and specially tempered their corporeal bodies. Their bodies could swell dozens to hundreds of times over, turning them into giants. They wore armor forged from mysterious copper and mysterious gold, and the thickness of the armor alone was half a feet. When these giants practiced storming the city, chains were wrapped around their bodies, and they had to carry shields as they pushed the cloud carts. Cloud carts were exceedingly intricate. Aside from huge iron hammers to smash the city gate, there were also flying cart ladders that could extend dozens of yards upward. The ladders would brace against the city wall, allowing soldiers to climb onto the ramparts. Other than this, there were also soldiers executing formation diagrams, laying them out so the troops could stand upon them and practice their formations. There were also cavalry riding enormous birds, diving down under the commander's orders. 10 over thousands of sword lights shot downward, and with a single swoop, over a hectare of land was filled with flying swords. After the cavalry swept past, the flying swords whooshed up from the ground and flew one after another back into the sword cases on their backs. The airborne cavalry came and went like wind and like lightning, leaving people unable to guard. There was not only one troop of cavalry, there were dozens of flying cavalries. The huge flying cavalries employed beehive tactics and pack-of-wolf tactics. Therefore, if ground troops encountered the flying cavalries, it would be nothing short of a devastating blow. If they met strong enemies, the flying cavalries could also execute kite tactics to hang the enemies to death. Other than the flying cavalries, there were also flying ships. This time, Duke Wei and Grand General, who crowns the army, had mobilized several hundred ships, and each ship could carry 1,000 people, which meant a vast army of a few 100,000 had been set in motion. Imperial Preceptor's reform has indeed forged Eternal Peace Empire's army into an invincible army. If our Heavenly Devil cult were to suffer such an assault, we would definitely be wiped out. Qin thought to himself. When they reached the camp, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor exchanged a few words with Duke Wei, Grand General, who crowns the army, and Grand General of Cherishing Transformation, then led Qin and the rest toward Daxiangsi City. All kinds of sect flags hung across Daxiang City. There were even flags of countries that had already been eradicated. Eternal Peace. Imperial Preceptor glanced over them and shook his head. If this old generation isn't utterly destroyed, how will we become great? They can keep returning from the ashes and make a comeback. Blood must flow in a revolution, and millions of heads will roll. Qin asked, Imperial Preceptor, is it ready? It's ready. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor lifted his head and the city gate opened wide. 2 rows of people walked out and lined up to the left and right of the city gate. The vital chi behind them transformed into apparitions of gods and devils. Strong practitioners of celestial being realm. Qin gathered himself. Strong practitioners of the celestial being realm could already manifest apparitions of gods and devils. These 2 groups of celestial being realm experts already numbered 60 to 70 people. The scene still isn't big enough. Yue Qinghong sighed and smiled. To test the scholars of this world, just the examination in Hall of Azure Yang of our Imperial College alone would mobilize 99 strong practitioners of celestial being realm to test the scholars. For the rebels to have only so few strong practitioners of celestial being realm, it isn't even enough for our Imperial College to kill. The dozens of celestial being realm experts lowered their gaze toward their hearts and ignored her words. When they walked through the city gate, they saw 2 rows of celestial being realm experts lined on both sides of the long street. There was 1 person every 10 steps all the way to the center of the city. The end could almost not be seen, and there were probably over 1,000 of them. Yue Qinghong's heart trembled violently, and she didn't dare utter another word. Qin remained fairly composed. Heavenly Devil Cult also possessed a few hundred strong practitioners of Celestial Being Realm, so there was nothing for him to be surprised about. Not only are the sects involved in this revolt, even some countries that were already eradicated are involved. Eternal Peace. Imperial Preceptor continued indifferently. Back then, to win the hearts of the people, I didn't kill every single strong practitioner from these countries, which allowed them to rebel again. Other than the sects and countries, there are also some reputable families, and the riots from these reputable families can't be underestimated. Qin Mu made quick calculations. Above Celestial Being Realm was Life and Death Realm, and above Life and Death Realm was Divine Bridge Realm. Since there were so many Celestial Being Realm experts, that meant the number of Life and Death Realm experts wouldn't be low, and there would at least be 100 of them. Meanwhile, there would probably be over a dozen Divine Bridge Realm experts, over a dozen people at the Cult Master level, plus strong practitioners from hidden sacred grounds like Little Jade Capital, Eternal Peace. Imperial Preceptor was now literally delivering his head for them to chop off. As for Qin Mu and the rest, they could simply chop their heads off first and hang them around their waists. The strong practitioners on both sides of the path were solemn and made no sound. Only the footsteps of Qin Mu and the rest could be heard. Other than the divine arts practitioners of the rebels within the city, there was already no one else here. Not only that, there were actually no buildings in Daxiang City. All the buildings had been razed to the ground, and even their foundations had been removed. The city lay bare, and only tens of thousands of soldiers stood inside. They were arranged in formations, and they were all silent as well, saying not a word as they looked toward them. Walking under the gaze of tens of thousands of divine arts practitioners was extremely nerve-wracking. Even Chen Wanyan, who was accustomed to warfare, was trembling and unable to control herself. Qin Mu had seen God before and had even peed on the sculpture of God, so he remained undisturbed. He felt the pressure, yet he did not lose his composure. The center of the city had also been remade. The city Lord Manor had vanished without a trace, and in its place stood a high platform with several thousand steps. The platform rose dozens of yards above the ground and was even taller than the city tower. Resembling a small mountain, Qin Mu walked forward, and his heart trembled slightly. The platform did not merely resemble a small mountain. It was a mountain. Someone had moved an entire mountain and placed it upon the original site of the city Lord Manor, then carved it into its present shape. When they reached the bottom of the steps, they began to walk upward at an unhurried, steady pace. Finally, when they came to the top of the mountain, they discovered the peak had already been flattened. Majestic apparitions of gods and devils stood towering there, yet the masters of the sects were nowhere to be seen. Qin Mu looked closely and saw that these sect masters were either standing upon the palms of the god and devil apparitions or seated within the hearts and brows of those gods and devils. None of them touched the ground. They were all high in the air, pressing Qin Mu and the rest with immense pressure. These existences at the cult master level were simply too powerful. A beautiful woman stood on the fingertips of a god's apparition, looking down from above at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. She said softly, "The number one man under gods, the Imperial Preceptor of the current dynasty? You actually didn't bring any helpers?" This god apparition had the appearance of a Taoist. It stood 300 yards tall, and its eyes were snow-white, as if formed from white-colored light. A huge snake coiled around its body, and a black turtle was beneath its feet. A breeze swept by, and the pennant behind its back fluttered in the light wind. Si Yunxiang saw this, and her heart leaped slightly. The god that her vital qi transformed into has been refined into a solid form, a realm that is close to God. Qin Mu was not too clear about this area, and his heart wavered. He then asked, "Sister, if someone lacks his 4 limbs, yet when using the third eye to look at him, he is perfectly complete and appears like an imposing, matchless god, radiating divine light that blinds people. How does that realm compare to this woman's realm?" Si Yunxiang also did not understand much and did not reply. Suddenly, Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor turned his head around. and an uncontrollable aura burst forth. His desire for battle overflowed from his body. You have seen such a person? Chinmu was startled by the sudden eruption of his battle intent and said, "It's my elder." The corners of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's eyes twitched. "Your elder again? You seem to have a lot of elders." Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Dark Gem. Chinmu's cheeks flushed crimson. "It's a bit excessive. There are only 9 of them." 9 such elders? Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was struck with astonishment. Were those 9 people like Mute? If so, the roots of this heavenly devil cult master were downright terrifying. "There are still 9 people like me. My road won't be lonely." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor let a gratified smile surface. "I thought there was no one else but me who had climbed to this step. Now, my heart suddenly feels calm." Chinmu studied him with curiosity, and a thought abruptly rose. If he were to use Green Heaven's eyes to look at Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor right now, would he be beaten to death? He truly wanted to see whether Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor was the same kind of existence as the village chief. Yet he couldn't see through Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor at all. He couldn't see through this person's cultivation, nor could he see through his nature. Contradictions piled upon contradictions within this man. If he used Green Heaven's eyes on him, he might flare up. "Imperial Preceptor, Palace Master is speaking to you. Why aren't you replying?" Chinmu turned toward the voice and saw the speaker step down from the platform. The man wore a bronze mask of singular strangeness, with exaggerated features: ears long and broad, a nose like an eagle's beak, a cavernous mouth, 2 eyes like upright pillars, brows wide and heavy, and a hole in the forehead as though prepared for yet another eye. The moment Chinmu saw beneath that mask, there truly was an eye there. There was an eye between this person's brows. What kind of technique is this? He couldn't help but freeze for a beat. Eternal Peace. Imperial Preceptor glanced toward the bronze-masked man. Then his gaze slid past him and settled on Passion-Parting Palace Master Chu Di. Palace Master Chu of Passion-Parting Palace. Your secrets of hatred. Parting Heavenly Sword is on par with a sword art handed down by a god. His eyes moved to the next figures. Chariot Castle, Lord Che Zhengli. Jade Castle, Lord Yu Qingsheng. Black Castle, Lord Li Fei. Castle Lord Che practices Heaven's Law. Mysterious Devil Seal, the art that seals the devil path of the Dao sect. Jade Castle Lord's art is 5 insects dragon transformation technique, raising venomous insects into dragons. As for Castle Lord Li, you refine poison, but what your technique is, I'm not clear. Castle Lord Li gave a soft chuckle. There are still techniques the Imperial Preceptor doesn't know. Mine is called Poison Transforming 3 Immortals Mystery Technique, skilled at turning poison into power. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's gaze shifted to another person. Spiritual Master Dao Quan, your hands always treated illness and saved lives, so why have you joined the rebels as well? Over 10 years ago, when Surging River flooded, plague ran wild and an epidemic swept the south. Spiritual Master treated the people and dispensed medicine for free, earning renown across the world. I once wished to invite you to take office in Imperial College, but you refused. Thus, you were only granted the title of Spiritual Master. Spiritual Master Dao Quan answered with solemn gravity. When our paths differ, we cannot walk together. Imperial Preceptor, I declined you back then because I saw that you and I tread different roads. You are too ruthless. You wish to eliminate every sect under heaven, so I have no choice but to stop you. Eternal Peace. Imperial Preceptor fell silent. I eliminate all sects in the world so I can treat more people. Have you not seen what I've been doing? Spiritual Master Dao Quan said, You have done extremely well. In the past, apothecaries were few. Now they are like hairs on a cow. Even flying ships are assigned apothecaries and medicine children, making it hard for plague to rampage. However, in these years, every physician Imperial College has taught is a quack. None can be called divine physicians. You cannot refute this. Seems your road truly is different from mine. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor looked along another row and said, High Official Ma Lianshan, Lord Ma. I dare not, Ma Lianshan replied with a grave expression. Imperial Preceptor, you recommended my official post, yet I also have my sect. I come from the Zhongnan Mountains, cultivating the Nanming 5 Li sword classics. Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said, I asked His Majesty to appoint you because you are upright and impartial, and you are also skilled at leading troops. I thought you would cast aside sectarian bias, yet you turned rebel and caused me pain. As an official, you did well. The people always spoke exceedingly well of you." Ma Lianshan shook his head. "How could I be the only good official who rebelled?" "Imperial preceptor, you should reflect upon your own mistakes." Eternal peace. Imperial preceptor's face went blank with stupefaction. A rotten branch must be chopped off at once. If people's hearts wallow in the old and rot away, how can we reform? If we only start a revolution yet do not reform the lives of people already rotting, it will be hard for the world to know peace. Even if you are a good man, you stand in my way." He turned his eyes to the others. "Beggar sects Chi Deo, Sect Master Chi, 100 Poor Mystery Technique, Heavenly Stars Catcher Sect, Sect Master Luo Xingye, Heavenly Stars Catcher's Mystery Technique, Great Strength Monastery's Venerable Ji Kong, Formation Existence Destruction Emptiness, 4 Incantations Mudra, Great Podalaka Monastery's Venerable Hongfa, Buddhism Life Bodhi Technique, South Sea Vrita Monastery's Venerable Huiyin Vajra Unbeatable Technique. There is also Sakyamuni Xuankong, who was once ruler of Xuankong Country, ruler of Nanjing Country, Duanyin, ruler of Shifan Country, Nunu Huer, and the 3 seniors of the old generation." His gaze dropped onto 2 old men and 1 old woman. "You 3 are of the old generation and already ancient. 700 to 800 years old today, am I right? After living more than 800 years, you've reached the end of lifespan. May I ask, how many years do the 3 of you have left?" The short, skinny, black elder smiled. "I'm Wanderer Shani. Folk call me Wanderer Ili. I still have 16 years left. Truth be told, I can't really be called a wanderer. Chuyun Country, the small country Imperial Preceptor eradicated, was the country I founded. I'm true Lord Tian." The old woman grinned broadly. "I love breeding insects. Imperial Preceptor should have seen them before. 3 Wonders Castle's Castle Lord Yu is my son," the plump elder said. "I don't have a background as grand as theirs. I'm teacher poor. Don't look down on me for being so fat. I went broke from eating. We cultivate the poor logic technique. The poorer we are, the more logical we are." "Teacher poor is jesting," Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor said solemnly. "When you view the world from a poor man's angle, you should work to seek knowledge, to attain it by investigating things. I understand this logic, but you are a teacher. Why rebel against me?" Teacher Poor shook his head. "When you cultivate good character in poverty, then when you rise to power, the world becomes like you. Imperial Preceptor. There is no benefit to the world when your power is too great. I rebel not for personal gain, but like them for the eternal peace empire. With your overwhelming power, we can still remove you now. But if it were a few years later, you would already have become the emperor." Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor straightened atop the mountain peak, and his indifferent voice spread in all directions. "Who else is against me?" Instantly, voices erupted one after another from Daxiang City. "I am!" "Liao Yinji of Heavenly Immortal Sect dares to rebel against Imperial Preceptor. Glorious Grandmaster Chu Jiming dares to rebel against Imperial Preceptor. Wuling Marquis Shanmu dares to rebel against Imperial Preceptor. Duhu Manor Adjutant Qing Mingyue dares to rebel against Imperial Preceptor. Wuying Country Magistrate Chen Yao dares to rebel against Imperial Preceptor." The cries surged from Daxiang City, each belonging to great experts of life and death realm and celestial being realm. As one voice ended, another replaced it, without end. The declarations grew more and more forceful, gripping hearts and kindling fervor. Even the bronze-masked man's blood raced as he shouted in a thunderous voice, "Imperial Preceptor, do you see this? How unfavorable your position is? With all the people in the world wanting to kill you, what face do you have to keep living?" Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor's expression did not change. He said indifferently, "All the people in the world? A mere few 100,000 in this city deserve to be called all the people in the world? They're only an insignificant bunch that simply needs to be eradicated. Only when all of you are dead can the world finally be at peace. Then the end will come only when one side is completely wiped out," the bronze-masked man said. "Heavenly Prison Seal has already been laid down on this mountain, clearing an area of 50 hectares. There's no need to worry about injuring the soldiers outside when we clash here. This time, we won't be speaking of the righteousness and justice of the martial world, nor the rules of the martial world." Qin Mu let out a long breath and smiled at Si Yunxiang. "In that case, I can be at ease." Monk Yunkui's face was ashen. He stammered, "What do you mean? At ease? We're trapped inside the seal. We'll be the first to die from the tremors. Do you still remember Heaven Wave City? This battle will definitely be several times more terrifying than the one in Heaven Wave City." Yue Qinghong and the rest also turned pale. In the Battle of Heaven Wave City, only a portion of Dutian Devil King's magic power had descended, fighting Dragon Rider Sect Master and another strong practitioner of the cult master level, yet the scale of destruction had been unimaginable. Even the Dragon Qilin, strong as it was, couldn't withstand such blows. If a massive battle erupted here, the devastation would be several times greater. Yet the entire 50-hectare area was sealed, meaning the pulses formed by the battling strong practitioners would rebound back and forth, stirring everything into chaos. When that time came, even the Dragon Qilin would be minced meat. At that moment, enormous flags suddenly billowed out from the city and extended endlessly into the distance, stretching for dozens of miles. The bronze-masked man and the others standing high above all showed great changes in expression as they looked over. Those huge flags, dozens of yards long, whipped upward and covered the enemy camp. Beneath them lay hidden cavalry and countless soldiers. The bronze-masked man was just about to shout a warning when the huge flags abruptly rolled up, and 360 enormous flags appeared within the city. Strange people in bamboo hats, carrying cloth sacks, suddenly waved them, and the Eternal Peace Empire's army, tens of thousands strong, appeared in Daxiang City in an instant. Only then did the bronze-masked man's voice ring out. "On guard!" But it was already too late. When the 360 strange people rolled up their huge flags, creatures with ferocious faces emerged. Weapons gripped in their hands, their murderous intent surged into the sky. Beneath the flags, golden-armored giants appeared alongside cloud chariots. At the aft of the huge flying ships, bronze beasts had already begun spewing blazing flames, while huge birds beat their wings and whipped up violent gales. By the time the huge flags fully rolled up and shrank small, the sounds of slaughter had already begun. Sharp swords leapt from their sheaths, their clear ringing mingling with world-shaking roars. This moment seemed to stretch unbelievably slow, so slow that every shift in expression could be seen, from ferocious to malevolent, from blank to terrified. Flying swords burst forth in bloodlight, slicing through human bodies and scattering blood across the air. There was even a peculiar beauty to the instant when a head was severed from the neck. "Elephant transformation!" A roar shattered the frozen slowness. An infantry officer bellowed, and thousands of foot soldiers answered with thunderous shouts. Their bodies swayed as they transformed into elephant-headed giants, charging the rebel army and smashing them apart. Meanwhile, the flying cavalry had already soared into the heavens. Now they dove like hawks, loosing countless flying swords like rain. "Fire bottle gourds!" An order rang out from the flying ships. The soldiers there hauled out red bottle gourds half a man's height. The moment the corks were pulled, raging true fire poured down from the ships, setting the guards on the city walls ablaze and turning countless people into flaming humans. Boom! A troop of golden-armored strong men pushed the cloud chariots forward, trampling countless soldiers as they went, and brutally slammed into the city walls, shattering them. Flaming humans tumbled down from above. Outside the walls, Grand General, who crowns the army and Grand General of Cherishing Transformation, lifted spear and halberd high, pointing them toward Daxiang City. Behind them, the uncountable Eternal Peace Army roared and surged forth, on the ground and in the sky, like a flood.